Stephan got canceled by Fox News. Holy smokes, this is no dang jokus. I didn't think Graham could ever be canceled. Come on, man. I want to react to the first little bit of this video for context reasons so everybody understands kind of what's going on here. And then kind of share my perspective. I thought this is an important subject. I thought it was something that needed to be talked about and addressed. And it's interesting. When I first heard about it a couple weeks ago, I told a friend about it, and I said, I was kind of giving him crap because this particular friend, super Republican, right? And I have a lot of Republican friends, but this one's like the most extreme one. And I said, can you believe Fox News did da-da-da? And I kind of gave him my opinion on it. He's like, dude, I don't care about Fox News. I haven't watched Fox News since 2020. I said, what? You haven't watched Fox News since 2020? So I guess there's actually, Fox News has lost a lot of people over the last few years after their stance they kind of seemed to take after T-Man got out of office, and then obviously with the Tucker Carlson stuff, a lot of people have kind of been turned off, that even our very diehard Republicans actually are not watching Fox News anymore. So I just thought that was a little context to provide at the beginning of this. So yeah, looking forward to getting in this one, sharing some perspective and opinion on this subject.
What's up, guys? It's Graham here. So I got canceled by Fox News, and because of that, I'm making this video as my way of sharing the information that they didn't allow me to talk about. What could it be, you ask? Well, a few weeks ago, I received several emails from a booker at Fox asking if I'd like to join their host, Jesse Waters, during his primetime show to discuss the real estate market. And I quickly
Now, there's Jesse Waters. I believe he took, was it Jesse Waters or Jesse Walters? I believe he took over Tucker Carlson's time slot, if I recall. And correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I believe Jesse overtook Tucker Carlson's time spot that Tucker used to have previously.
After all, this is a topic that I feel like I know quite a lot about, because for those unaware, I've worked full-time as a real estate agent from 2008 through 2020. I've sold over $130 million worth of inventory. I bought and sold several rental properties of my own. I still hold on to a small portfolio of multifamily homes, and this is a topic that I spend hours a day researching. So after agreeing to the interview, I got almost an immediate response back to clarify the logistics and then cover the topic at hand, Wall Street. There's been reports that institutional investors have bought up a great deal of single-family homes and are driving up the price. Millennials are now being forced to compete for homes. We would love to have your real estate experience, break this down with Jesse, and get to the bottom of what's going on. Now, admittedly, I'll be honest, it's been a very long time since I actually sat in front of the TV to watch the news. Like, probably not since I was a kid. So I assumed, maybe too naively, that they'd want to promote actual discussion led by relevant facts.
Oh, come on, man. What is this, Kevin Hart talking? Don't make me laugh like that. Facts. Relevant what?
Media hit pieces to get clicks. Right? In a way, I guess this was one of the reasons I was so excited to be able to talk to Jesse on Fox Primetime. Because I mean,
it is a cool moment, right? In the YouTube space, I mean, you couldn't even imagine this 5 years ago, right? YouTube finance was dead, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And to be at a place where, a primetime show like that on Fox News would want a finance YouTuber to come on and speak about the subject, it's a huge moment and something that, that somebody that's part of the space is very proud of. And, but anyways, let's go on here.
Assumption that we would be able to get to the bottom of what's actually going on and clear up a lot of the misconceptions. So in response to that email, I clarified my position ahead of time, very clearly, so that way they'd know where I'd be going with the entire story. The response I got back from them was no problem. We don't have to lean with that. Instead, we could go into millennials in the housing market and why they're not buying homes. Well, on the day of filming, they sent someone over to the house to set up a remote interview between me and Jesse that was scheduled to air later in the day. Basically, they had me call in. I could hear the scheduled segments in order as it was being recorded. And then when it was my turn to do the interview, I'd look at the camera and talk to Jesse. Simple, right? Sure enough, despite me sharing my position on Wall Street buying homes, shortly before going live, I got a message that they would in fact be leading with the narrative that Wall Street is buying homes. And in my earpiece, I could very clearly hear the segment that was leading up to my interview. Just before I went on, I heard a variety of millennial interviews sharing their frustrations with high home prices, anecdotal stories of why they're still living with their parents, and how unfair it is that Wall Street is allowed to buy these homes and drive up the price. About a minute later, Jesse Waters began talking into my earpiece, and his first question was along the lines of, shouldn't it be illegal for Wall Street to buy homes and drive up the price? what's going on? Thankfully, I have my entire portion of the call completely recorded from beginning to end.
So before we go further here, I think we got to address something, because what a change, right? Because I remember when I was first getting into the financial markets, 2008, 2009, how many people were out there with signs in front of Wall Street pissed because Wall Street made a bunch of money from the housing crash. Well, certain Wall Street firms, certain went under, okay, and they had to be saved and taxpayer money had to go to that. Other ones profited huge amounts from actually the fact that the real estate market collapsed. So it's crazy on how much of a twist we've had over the years, where now we're at a moment in time. Like, think about this for a moment, right? We're in a moment where people are mad that Wall Street would be trying to capitalize on the upside of real estate. Like, what a change, man. What a flip and flapjack and change in a matter of 15 years.
And my response was to simply reiterate the facts. Mortgage rates are the highest they've been since 2000. Housing inventory is at the lowest level since 1999. 60% of homeowners have a rate locked in below 4%. Home prices have risen 250% in the last 20 years, whereas average incomes have only risen by 80% at best. So the fact is, unless someone is planning to live in their home for the next 7 to 10 years, buying right now tends to be a losing proposition when you account for closing costs, maintenance, property taxes, insurance, and everything else that goes along with homeownership. If anything, this is one of the few times out there where it's a lot better short-term to be a renter than a buyer. So I was fully prepared to go in with factually verified information as to the true problems that people are facing right now in the housing industry, especially as a millennial. But after saying this, he again circles back to the narrative that implies that Wall Street is to blame, that they're the ones driving up housing prices by buying up all the inventory. So again, I reiterated my position. The reality is, private equity only owns 1.6% of all single-family rental homes, and the other 98.4% are bought and owned by normal, everyday people. So Wall Street has a very insignificant effect throughout the broad market. That's why the real issue we should...
You got to ask yourself, is Wall Street supposed to be the most sophisticated insider of insiders, maybe illegal information? You think the best place these people could get a return for their investment is by buying a rental property? Come on, man. Come on. You got to be flipping my flapjacks. Like, these folks have much more sophisticated ways to make much better returns than buying a property and trying to rent it out over the next 30 years. Like, come on, man.
This is the fact that low interest rates have completely turned our economy upside down, and now we're facing the repercussions of artificially stimulating the economy. But after saying all of that, he then proceeded to ask if the home I live in belongs to my parents. I said no, and then he asked for my...
By the way, that's a disrespectful question. I mean, what kind of question is that? Like... Very, very disrespectful question. Like, to assume that a man in his 30s, I don't know what's Graham, 30, 35, whatever, like a man in his 30s is living in a house that his parents own, like, that's just disrespectful. Big time disrespectful. It's almost like the conversation's not quite going your way, so you're like, how can I disrespect this individual?
To all the other millennials who are having difficulty buying a property. Perhaps this is the point where I lost him, but my thought is that when I look at the numbers financially, buying does not make a lot of sense in most markets right now unless you plan to hold for at least 10 years. Like right now, throughout most of the country, the cost of buying is significantly higher than the cost of rent. So with that in mind...
Now, what's my take on that? I would say, do I agree or disagree with Graham? I would say, generally speaking, I agree with Graham. Yes, especially right now, you're looking at mortgage rates of either 7s or 8s. And we talk about these home prices being up where they're at right now, right? Which is around the most unaffordable we've ever seen in history right now. When you take all this into account in the risks, obviously the economy over the next year or two, along with the fact that a lot of these, landlords are in a place where it's hard to go up on rents now at this point in time. Plus, if you want to rent from an apartment, a lot of apartment complexes are now starting to do deals where they give you 2 months free, 3 months free, if you sign a 12-month lease, 18-month lease. So, I would agree with Graham. It's likely a smarter, more intelligent decision right now to rent. And that's a freak situation. That's very rare it's ever a smarter decision to rent versus buying. Like, most of the time it makes more sense to buy, but I agree with him on this.
Isn't renting the better option financially? Just take myself for an example. If I were to go and buy $1 million home, I'd have to put $200,000 down, take on a $5,600 a month mortgage, pay $650 in property tax, $200 a month in insurance, $150 in maintenance, and I'd be spending $6,600 a month. for a home that I could rent for $3,900 a month. At today's interest rates, the math for buying does not make a lot of sense unless you plan to live there.
That's why I'm not looking for real estate and rental properties. Like, I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll get back out there because I haven't bought a rental property in years, and I thought maybe I'd get back out there in 24. Probably not. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm probably, maybe 2025, 2026, maybe I'll buy another investment property, but I'm in no rush anytime soon. It just doesn't make financial sense at all.
Very long time. So my thought is this. For most millennials, as of today, the cost of renting is cheaper than buying. Rental prices are falling. Take advantage of this, and perhaps you could arbitrage the opportunity for some savings in the future. In response to my argument, Jesse then asked, what about all the people who can't afford to live in San Francisco? To which I jokingly responded, well, they can move to Las Vegas, because that's what I did. And then he responded back by saying, well, then you're living in Las Vegas.
I call that uneducated Jesse. He has no clue. He has no clue. I guarantee you, he comes out to Summerlin. Wherever he lives, our areas are way nicer. Our parks are way nicer. We have way less crime here. We have way less problems. Our police force is in a way better position than wherever he lives. I can guarantee you that. There's no doubt. No doubt. Just very uneducated. Very uneducated.
Okay, he'll win that one. Anyway, we finished filming the segment in about 3 minutes, and afterwards I was told it would go live at 5.
Our nicest communities, way nicer than the nicest communities and just about anywhere else. And I've been to the nicest places, like, unless you're Newport Coast or something like that. Monaco, maybe? I mean, no.
PM that same day. So because I don't have cable TV, I went to a neighbor's house to go and watch it. Sure enough, a little bit later as I began watching, everything on TV played in the exact order as I heard it on my earpiece. Except when it came time for my segment to air, they played this instead.
Sarah Ashton Cirillo, Ukraine's American transgender spokesman, was suspended after threatening to hunt down those who questioned Ukraine's corruption. Next week, of the Russian devils will know.
At that point, I figured.
So let's just call it what it is. Okay, let's call it what it is at this point in time, right? Why would they bump Graham's clip? Well, Graham's clip wasn't controversial enough. The tranny with a book, that's controversial. That's what everybody wants to hear. The Ukrainian, because that gets everybody fired up. Oh, did you hear this tranny wrote a book in Ukraine, bad people over there, we're spending all the tax money. Gets people going. Graham's clip isn't going to get the people going. And that's all that matters in the end to mainstream media, is getting the people going. It's all that matters. The rest of it, having an actual conversation, debate, and this is why so many people have been turned off of mainstream media over time. They realize all it is just a bunch of crazy manipulation to try to get you emotional about these different talking points, and talking about this and talking about that. They don't want to have a real conversation about what's actually going on in the real estate market. Let's put on the Ukrainian, just that's what it is, man. That's what it is.
Maybe they're just moving it a little later, or maybe it was earlier. So I watched the entire episode and didn't see it. So I reached out to ask what happened. Their response is that they had some breaking news earlier in the day with Vivek and his car got rear-ended, so they didn't have time to air my segment. But everything that I heard in my earpiece was the exact same as it aired on TV, with the exception of the book deal that could have been just a last-minute.
So this is how they made the decision. Okay, Ukraine trans spokesman or Graham segment. Ukraine trans spokesman on a book, or, of course, what are they going to choose? The one that's gets the people going. And Graham's piece isn't going to get the people going.
To take my place. I get it. I'm sure these things happen, and maybe the book deal was just a bigger story than millennials in the housing market. I'm just happy to have had the opportunity to even speak about a topic like this to begin with. Plus, in hindsight, maybe my narrative just didn't lead to compelling, exciting TV. For instance, after watching an hour of their content, I will say I learned that it really helps to lean into the narrative that there's a large, faceless corporation to point the finger at, because they're the ones to blame. They're the ones at fault. They are the bad guys. We're the ones being taken advantage of. It's not fair. We are the victims. This just makes for much more compelling TV instead of saying low interest rates have boosted home prices.
100%. And this is why Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, all these services have turned off the people over the years. And this is why more and more people are looking for outlets outside of those mainstream media places, right? That's why they're going to social media for content or just different places and finding what's actually relevant to them and interesting to them, because what's interesting to me is not interesting to the masses. I can tell you that. What's interesting to Graham is not what's interesting to the masses. A lot of people are just looking to be entertained, are just looking to point fingers and say why the other side's bad and these people are evil and these people are good. And, it's a whole different ballgame when it comes to that. And, these big, huge media outlets weren't built by accident. They know what they're doing, right? They do. They didn't build these massive companies by accident. They built it because they know how to manipulate, how to get people going. They know what's going to drive ratings. They know what's going to drive debate. People talking. They know what's going to excite their watching base. That's what it is.
Affordable levels. They can no longer build enough to satisfy demand at a low price because materials are also more expensive. And since 90% of homeowners are locked in with a mortgage under 6%, it no longer makes financial sense to move. Hence why there's very low inventory and anything currently on the market gets bid up to a very expensive level. So with that out of the way, if you want the information that I was not allowed to share on mainstream media, here are the facts as someone who has zero affiliation whatsoever to Wall Street. To start, the Wall Street buying homes narrative really seems to have taken off with this Twitter thread here, which made the claim that BlackRock is buying every single family house they could find, paying 20 to 50% above asking price and outbidding normal home buyers. However, when you actually investigate all of these unsourced claims, as it turns out, the community in question is a purpose-built rental community created by D.R. Horton. By the time the project was for sale, it had already been built, completely rented out, and was being sold as an entire package of 124 homes that were never meant or built to be for sale for individual home buyers. In this case, D.R. Horton purposely sought out land in a desirable area, purpose-built homes on them to be able to rent out, and their business was fully intended to be a flip like this with a 50% profit margin.
And this is why it pays to do a little more digging. Whenever you see a headline, this or that, if you actually care about it, folks, do a little more digging. The amount of times I have to fact check people, friends or family or whoever that sends me stuff, and then I'll just do literally 5 minutes of research. And I'm like, oh, you realize your opinion is not holding up in this situation because what you think is presented as a fact is not a fact at all. It's startling, man. It's really startling, but we're living in that sort of time frame where just whatever narrative is being positioned to get people interested or debating without... You just dig a little deeper, man. You'll find so much.
This makes it seem like Wall Street is going and purchasing entire neighborhoods at 50% over asking and taking inventory away from home buyers. The reality is these homes were never intended to go for sale and were meant to be sold to an institutional investor who, in this case, turned out to be Fundrise, who allows anyone to participate with as little as $10. And then paying 50% over asking was simply D.R. Horton's 50% profit margin after selling the project. Basically, this entire tweet is completely taken out of context, it's highly misleading, it's unsubstantiated, and from every piece of factual evidence that I could find, nothing supports their claims. Instead, I'd summarize the entire tweet as basically misinterpreting the information and having a lack of understanding of how profit margins are calculated.
Yeah, the sad part is it already went viral. And it's already in massive amounts of people's heads that Wall Street's evil. The reason real estate's high is because of Wall Street, and that's what it is. And it's just like, it's so much deeper than that, but that's the name of the game.
Okay, fine. That's just one case. What about everything else? Like in 2022, there was the headline that investors are buying nearly 1 in 5 homes, most in all cash deals. By the sound of it, this seems like an absolutely absurd number that's surely to blame for sky-high prices. Except this is actually lower than what it was in 2004, 5, and 11 when investors were purchasing nearly 1 in 3 homes for sale. Second, the term investor is extremely broad and it's very easily misunderstood. For example, if you go and buy your first rental property, you're categorized the exact same as an institutional conglomerate who just closed on a 1,000-home subdivision.
Interesting.
So we got to break it down a little bit further. Of the 26% of homes that are currently being...
Yeah, if you want to watch the rest of the video, go to Graham's channel and you can watch the rest of the video. But just cracks me up, man. And like I said, at the end of the day, this is why a lot of people have turned away from mainstream media over the years. They just have. And I don't think that's a trend that's going to slow. I think it's going to get more and more, right? But with that being said, on social media, make sure you fact check what you're hearing out there on social media. You see some random account says this or that. Fact check it a little bit. Do a little bit of digging. You'd be amazed at how much you could find in 5 or 10 minutes of research on a subject and like, oh, wow, no, it's actually this, I think that's really important, folks, okay? Appreciate y'all joining me as always. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you for being subscribed. Shout out to Graham. It is what it is, man. He got canceled. Dang, we'll move on. prosperous in the future, okay? Thanks for being subscribed, folks. New all-time high subscribers in the History Channel. Yeah, much love. Have a great day.